Okay. We said we're going to talk about this for 2.5 months. We were going to wait till the end. Here it is. Wait, did it go? We're talking about WandaVision. I really ruined my intro there. We're talking about WandaVision, folks. That is all we're talking about, stuff we like, because you're talking to 4 people who liked it. And we're gonna we all had stuff we've enjoyed. I guess to lead off this discussion, Stefan, I think you're our main person Marvel wise. You delve into the stuff the most we do, and most we do. I want to lead off with this question because I don't know the answer to this. Has the response to the ending of this series been positive or negative among the online fan base? Because I genuinely don't know.
It's been mixed, but I think it's been a tempered mixed. I think I'm about to give my opinion, I think it's what I've been hearing the majority. You're always going to get the vocal minority, right? The ones who yell the loudest and scream for the most attention. But I think so. Where I land is the show is incredibly good. It was very fun. They did a lot of different things, but it falls short of great. And that is where the tempered expectations come in. Is I have fun with the fan theories, guys. I like watching the videos about the Easter eggs. I watch the channels who make the fan theories. And while I want them to happen, I don't have so much emotional hope riding on them that if they don't, that I'm like mad at the show or anything. But I think what it taught me was, okay, this is a Disney Plus show. It's not the main movies. They're not going to do anything that big on the Disney Plus shows. And what I'm talking about that big is we are talking about multiverse stuff. We are talking about introducing mutants and the X-Men. That's not what is going to happen on Disney Plus. If that happens, that's happening in the big, released in theater, makes $1 billion cinematic movies. So it kind of sets my expectations for all these shows going forward. But that said, so instead of what it could have been or what I wanted it to be, and what it was, I thought it was really good, and I think most people agree. It was really weird to start. It was so different from anything, and I know there's a lot of people, they just wanted it to really ride that track a bit, ride that wave a bit more, right? Really lean into the weirdness. But I think by the finale, it kind of returned to like, okay, this is kind of classic Marvel formula now. So I don't think most people aren't necessarily mad at that, but they're just like, okay, so this is what it's going to be. Like, how did you guys land on it as a series overall, I guess?
I liked it quite a bit. I didn't look at the fan theory stuff a lot, to be honest. My impression also with this was like, I don't know like Scarlet Witch that well, you know? I'll be honest, I don't know any specific comic book character that well, unless it's like I've read a bunch of Batman, you know? That's really the one. I read a bunch of Spider-Man. Beyond those two, the comic book stuff, a lot of for me is real like surface level, and I didn't really know shit about Scarlet Witch, and Vision. I didn't know anything, so I kind of went into this thing a little more blind with a lot of stuff. The beginning stuff, the sitcom-y stuff, I was really digging because I, as a kid, watched a lot of Nick at Night with my mom, so I would watch Dick Van Dyke Show. That's the thing I actually watched with her. So I really dug that. It started with that. As it kind of got away from that, I was actually good with it because I was like, okay, let's get going here about where this is headed. I thought, if we want to talk about Miss Catherine Hahn now or not, because goddamn, I still think the best part of this series was the song 2 episodes ago to end this episode. Episode 7. Was my favorite part of this series for me personally. That was incredible. So much so that we had to put aside we're going to wait till the end to talk about this. 2 weeks ago when the podcast ended, I'm like, we need to talk about that song because that was my favorite thing to happen by a mile.
It was, Bobby, but then here's a nitpick complaint. By the next episode, I was like, well, lyrically, it's incorrect. Agatha did some stuff, but it was not her all along. It was still Wanda. It was still pretty much Wanda doing everything, and Agatha actually trying to figure things out herself. So that was a little bit of a little misdirection.
She got the most.
It was fun though.
The most memes to come out of this was the wink from Agatha, probably followed by what was the thing Randall Park said about like, a crude explanation, but technically correct or something. There was that one. What was that? One of the things that Jimmy Woo said.
It's like an oversimplification.
Oh, oversimplification. That was number 2. But like, yeah, in terms of means, Catherine Hahn was number 1 with a bullet, man. I really dug it. I thought, again, I don't know. I mean, Maria Rambo. What was her mom's? Is she Monica or Maria? Which one is she? I was mixing it up.
She was Monica.
Maria, because I just watched Captain Marvel again too. It took me a hot minute to realize who that was when they showed up, which I'm not proud of, because it was literally the same character's name. I'm like, oh, little girl from Captain Marvel. Here we go. Her having powers and stuff. I didn't know that was something we were going to and stuff. That was really cool. And I thought the bad guy in this, who I want to look up that actor's name. I thought he was pretty good. I bought him, as the piece of shit government guy. You need one of those in a movie like this. I thought he did a good job. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I mean, you're talking to somebody who watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the first couple seasons. So, I mean, traditionally, DC's done really good with TV shows, I thought. And Marvel, not so much sometimes. This one was the best one they've done, probably. I'm not sure if I'm going to count the Netflix. I don't know if Netflix was really them doing it or not, in fairness. But this is up there with any of those Netflix series, I think, personally. At least for me.
I think you could count it as this is their first TV series, because this is the first one with Kevin Feige at the helm. All the Daredevil ones and Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., that was Marvel TV Studios, who was run by another dude who Kevin Feige hated. So you could basically count them as 2 different entities.
Okay, in that case, yeah, they fucking knocked it out of the park. It made me excited we got 2 weeks, or a week, I guess now a week and a half or so, till Winter Soldier and Falcon. Made me excited for that. I like how this all worked out well, because like I think we're in the middle of it. We get to watch the Snyder Cut on HBO Max. That's gonna happen right in the middle of this shit. Is that how this all lined up date wise?
Wait, I think the Snyder Cut comes out on. Is it the 15th?
Is it this?
Am I wrong there?
Isn't it this weekend? It's not this weekend. Or whatever. That's unrelated to this. Go ahead, Mike. What do you think though? Once you go.
I really enjoyed the series. I think I mean, it goes without saying. I really didn't understand the first 2 episodes. So I understood it. I didn't particularly enjoy it just because I've never really liked really old sitcoms before, but I understood why they had it in there. Obviously, within 3 episodes, that this was all part of Wanda's emotional state and her upbringing. How she actually enjoyed watching old sitcoms when she was in Sokovia, and that was one of the methods that her and her brother, the actual Quicksilver, learned how to speak English. So I'm like, oh wow, it's a very nice tie-in. It's weird that a Marvel show where the first 4 episodes are essentially like sitcoms, it gets really deep into how you process grief, and how you deal with it. And amazingly, I don't know if you guys have heard this, but there's been some talk of next year Elizabeth Olsen possibly being nominated for which one is the TV award? What's the big one? Is it Emmy? Is it an Emmy? Yeah. Being nominated for an Emmy for this, and there's only 5 women who are nominated for that award each year. So I don't know what there's.
Well, let me tell you, Mike. They have a separate thing for limited series, for short run series. She might be able to be in that thing, because this isn't going to have a year-over-year thing. This is
doesn't the old blonde lady from the American Horror Stories always win that shit?
She that old? I feel bad for Sarah Paulson.
No, the other one. I can't remember what her name is.
Okay, but they were talking about Sarah Paulson. I'm like, she's not that old. I feel bad for her now. Marcus, we haven't gone to you yet, man. What do you think?
I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I think it's my favorite live action superhero show they've ever done. It makes me think why I even like Daredevil as much as I did, because honestly, I think Daredevil is a good show. I do. When I look back on it, I just remember fucking scenes I couldn't give a shit. I don't know what they were talking about. It's like 2 characters talking, nothing's happening. They go on, and maybe Daredevil fights later. I was riveted this whole season, top to bottom. I mean, is it a flawless show? Absolutely not. I think the last episode, they kind of spent more on the budget and they really didn't need to. I didn't really need to see them flying around shooting fireballs at each other. I think that was kind of a bad way to visualize like what their powers are, especially within the series. They've had Wanda do so much cooler shit about like reforming the world around her and stuff. And then to have like their final bite, like they're flying around throwing fireballs at each other, stuff was just like, oh, this isn't necessary. The fact with Vision was awesome. And I think what really stood this series apart from other superhero series is that it wasn't treated like a TV show. It was treated like a movie. It had the writing that the movies had. It had the actors. And it had, I think what made it a great show is it had a really good villain. And I agree with Steph because I'm also of that fandom that I watch the episode. First thing I do after, going on YouTube, show me all those Easter eggs, all the things I didn't pick up on and all the little hints that might happen. And I think that did work up the fan base into a frenzy of like, oh, they're going to talk to a scientist. It has to be Mr. Fantastic. And like, oh, we're going to see Magneto come in. And I think, they definitely did kind of a nod and wink with having the guy that did Quicksilver from the X-Men movies come in playing her brother. And I think that obviously us knowing that they're going to be going into the madness of the multiverse and having that kind of be like, oh, is this a way how they're going to like meld in those other films into this universe and kind of have the whole Fox thing, meld into one. I think it would have been fantastic if they were able to do that. But I think them not doing it, I don't take it against the show that much. Like I think it's like, oh, a missed opportunity, but I'm not going to, hamp on a show because it didn't do my wildest expectations. Like, yeah, if it was me, I would have opened up the multiverse and Magneto would have been there and Wolverine's coming in. It would have just been craziness. But this wasn't really what that show was supposed to be. And what it was, I think it really nailed it. I think there was hints that like maybe there's someone else pulling the strings besides Agatha. But at the end of the day, I'm kind of glad they kept it a little simple. It's like, she's just the villain. She's the villain. And there's not, this greater mastermind. And maybe there will be some plot devices after the fact because they can always rework these things. But like, I thought she did a fantastic job being a villain. I thought it was great that she was throughout the whole series. You didn't really know where her allegiances lied. And then she turned out to be bad. And I thought I honestly thought it was really great. And I think if this is the type of quality they're putting into these shows, I'm even more excited for what else is going to come. I do think WandaVision was a very special series in and of itself. It's going to be very different. I think Winter Soldier and the Falcon is going to be much more straight-laced, kind of action oriented, maybe some spy thriller stuff. But I think this was a very different play on what they're going to do in these series. And I thought they did a great job. And like Mike, I'm not a big fan of the old sitcoms, but I like that first episode I still loved because while I wasn't a fan of those shows, I still love sitcoms and the tropes that they play. And I gobbled this show up. I loved every second of it. I thought the acting was great. And I thought, when they needed to make these pivots from comedy to serious, like personal emotion, I thought they fucking nailed it. I think Vision had one of the best lines of any media I ever saw when he talked about grief. He talked about grief is just love persevering. I was like, man, that fucking robot gets human emotion better than a lot of people do. I thought that was a fantastic line. I thought the scene with him talking to himself was really great and how they both kind of come to terms with like what they are and what they aren't. And then even in the goodbye where the Vision's talking about like, first I was a voice without a body, then I was a body without a consciousness. And now I'm a consciousness without a body. Like, and who knows what I'll be next, And I thought that was really eloquently said and written. I think this show, definitely there's things they fumbled on and weren't super great, but I think it really nailed some of the parts where it really needed to. So I'm super excited that where they're going to go, not just with the Scarlet Witch, which I think it's funny too. When Daredevil came out, we were all tickling each other balls about like, oh, I can't wait until he gets that suit, baby. I hope he gets that suit at the end. And Scarlet Witch, she gets her suit, but no one gives a fuck because I think the expectations were so much higher that her coming into her own of like her being this like not really a superhero. She's kind of a gray area, right? Where she's like, manipulating all these people and hurting them, but not doing it like viciously, just like subconsciously doing it. So I think they did a lot of interesting stuff I really liked.
I got a question. Someone go ahead first. Sorry, before I
just wanted to push back on that one thing. People give a fuck about the suit, Mark, because I've seen so many videos pop out specifically talking about it, and I will say I think she has the best MCU costume. Like in terms of melding the comic aspect with like whatever aesthetic they're going for, it looks great. The crown, it looks great to me. I wish the crown was more the kind of magic powered, like the way they kind of showed it initially. Like I wish it kind of radiated like an energy, but you know, for budget reasons, that's why it's this kind of look. But I think the uniform looks, the outfit looks great.
I do too.
I think Iron Man's got the best looking uniform, for the love of God. The
Oh,
fact that
his
they
is
pull that
cool.
off is goddamn amazing to me. Every time I see it, it's just moving the whole time. Crank, 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 just all the time. Shit's moving. So,
It's also CGI. His suit.
all of it's what the hell's her shit?
I think hers is an actual
Latex.
The Hulk's got the best suit. Then we're gonna count the CGI, man. The whole thing is
He has ripped shorts.
ripped shorts, baby. There was a line where I'm getting real granular here, I guess, where Catherine Hahn says, "You're more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme."
Mhm.
So she flat out calls out, "You're more powerful than Doctor Strange," right?
Mhm.
That's our connection that we
You
get.
didn't say you're more powerful than Sorcerer Supreme. She said you have the potential to be more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme.
Okay,
She
either
doesn't
way.
use the word potential at all, Mike. She says the
I thought she
Scarlet
actually
Witch
was.
is more powerful
You're
than
more
the Sorcerer
powerful.
Supreme.
I don't
I thought
think
she
she
said-
says you're more powerful than Sorcerer Supreme.
Okay, we got 4 people here. Which one? Who heard potential? Who heard that he said it was just more powerful?
It was a name drop. I don't think the semantics need
Okay,
to be.
is she
We're not
the
going to
bad
dive
guy?
into that.
Is that where we're going here? Is she gonna be the full? Is that where we're like? It sounds like we're headed. there?
That's been the big rumor for this whole thing. Is she's going to be the one who breaks open the multiverse and will kind of It seems like she'll be the villain of Doctor Strange, but since she's also a hero, it makes sense. And this is why I think so many people were fan theorizing Mephisto, is that she'll be the villain, but there will be a greater villain behind the villain type of thing, where Wanda will have her moment, because Wanda, she has vacillated back and forth between being good or kind of having evil tendencies.
I mean, even before this this series, right? Like when was it Civil War? Right? She tried to make the explosion not kill everyone, and she killed a bunch of people, and they blamed her for it. Right? She's constantly been blamed for stuff that she's trying to do the right thing, and in this point, she's just trying to deal with her grief. But because she can't control her powers, she enslaves a whole town. Like, was she the good guy in this series? Not really. I mean, not
Fair
even
point.
really close. So I think that's a medium ground where she's always going to have to train, and that plays very well into the comics, right? Like, she is part of the Avengers and part of X-Men and all these superhero teams,
She's
but
Magneto's daughter, right?
yeah, and she's also, and kind of like Magneto, right? Like Magneto, sometimes he's a good guy, sometimes he's a fucking bad guy, and I think that makes a more interesting character overall. But yeah, I don't think especially in that movie, I think they'll definitely blur the lines where she's probably going to fight Doctor Strange, and there's probably going to come to some reasoning together where they're like, okay, maybe don't do that or something.
Mike.
I checked the tape. She does say your power exceeds that of the Sorcerer Supreme.
Okay. So we were all wrong. I just said more powerful, but it's just different words. Okay, I have a question about White Vision. Is that a thing from the books?
Yep.
Okay, I don't want to.
That's West Coast Avengers circa the 70s. Basically, they didn't do it in the show, but it was really hinting toward there's going to be an emergence of some point. But that's essentially how.
Did you guys know this already, or did you go like this is among your post-show research and stuff? An honest question at that point.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You've seen him before, probably too, Bob, because in one of the Avengers video games, he's White Vision, and I didn't know, like, why the fuck is he white here, and I didn't know what the whole backstory was. Like, I'll fess up, like I knew there was one, but I didn't know like the significance until I watched all the fucking videos.
I knew in the 80s, if I'm right, late 80s, he was White Vision, and I knew that was that. I think he had like lost either all his memories or his ability to emote. So they kept some of those elements in this show with White Vision, but obviously it was, done through different means.
All right, and have they paid Homeboy to be Magneto again, or is this we don't even know where they're headed on any level?
So this is what I wanted to tackle, because it's a nitpick that I have with the series. It's my biggest nitpick on the series, but it also represents a relief that it'll kind of segue to your point, Bob. My nitpick is and this is what I think most people are vocal about, the stunt casting of Evan Peters to be a fake Quicksilver with no payoff. Because Evan Peters, he's a working actor, but he's got his segment of fans. He's very recognizable. And ultimately, our payoff was a boner joke, and that was just so lame. And I would have thought they learned their lesson because people didn't really react kindly to the fake Mandarin in Iron Man 3, and they did it again. So that's my big nitpick. Like, I'm not mad, but it was annoying that's what all that was, is Evan Peters simply existed to be named Ralph Boner. And that was the last we see of him.
He existed to spend a couple weeks for everybody to go nuts on the internet, is what it seemed like, is what his whole point was.
The term is stunt casting. Yeah. You intentionally do something because you know it's going to elicit a reaction and a stirring. So in that hand, you can't get mad at fans for theorizing because you knew what you were doing by casting him to play Quicksilver. They knew what they were doing in that moment. But my relief is this. I don't want anyone from the Fox X-Men movies, Wolverine included, I don't want them to be the MCU X-Men. None of those movies are very good. Mark, it's the first thing I thought of when you talked about Daredevil, and you're like, in hindsight, was it really that good? That's all the X-Men movies. I do specifically like Logan, and I give that a shout out, but all our fondness for X-Men 1, all our fondness of X-Men 2 and Pyro and Iceman, watch those again. They are terrible movies by today's standards. Like, I don't want anyone to come back.
He made his Coke. He made his Coke cold by blowing it to it, Stefan. What do you mean? We all cheered in a movie theater. You sitting next to me when he did that.
Like I said, our standards were different.
We were just happy they fucking existed. The movies. That was it.
Yes.
We're happy they existed.
But I don't want anyone. I want new casting. You know, if you do it in this multiversal style, which is going to go on, I pay attention to a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. You know, basically, it's expressed. We're going to see alternate versions of the Avengers. They're stunt casting the people who had auditioned for the roles but didn't quite get it. Which is going to be, we're going to see Tom Cruise be a Tony Stark. We're going to maybe see Emily Blunt be a Black Widow. Like, these things like this are fun, but I don't want it to be the reality.
You mentioned the. The movies weren't as good as, they are now and stuff. Our standards have changed. It reminded me of Kevin Smith talking about Batman movies early on, where he's like, you guys don't understand. I read comic books, and then all of a sudden there were comic book movies. I'll take any Batman. He says, and he was talking about Batman and Robin. He's like, I'll take gay Batman, whatever. I'll take nipple suit Batman. Whatever, Batman. I'll take him. By the way, why don't they just pay Kevin Smith to do a post show for all these fucking things, Chris Hardwick style? On Disney Plus for all these Marvel shows? Why don't they just pay him?
I know the answer to that.
Because he'll talk about dicks, right? He'll talk about superhero cock or something. It's Kevin Smith.
No, it's not that, but Mark used to watch them too. Whenever Marvel movies come out, Mark and I would both watch Kevin Smith's reviews. And they weren't so much reviews as they were a summary of the movie that was somehow twice as long as the movie.
That's
like,
true.
Kevin Smith loves comic books so much. He gets on this endless soapbox tangent about them.
He's basically doing his react, but instead of watching it with you, he just tells you what happens, and then he's crying about it. And it's like
he's so happy it's there
because he's super entertaining and it's fun. And just like you want to watch a react video, it's like, oh, I felt those feelings. I want to see someone else that shares my joy. Kevin Smith does, but after you watch like 5 of them, it's like, okay, I'm not really getting much insight here besides him just like regurgitating what happened in the movie, which is great, but I've had my fill. But he's fantastic.
Does anybody have anything else they want to say? Mike, you got anything before we put a bow on WandaVision here?
I guess one small nitpick I do have, and this is more just me reading up during, while the show was occurring, reading up on Agatha and how she did have such an integral part in some of the later stories when it came to the Scarlet Witch in terms of training her and actually being some sort of a good guy and actually having some substantial stories where she was involved in. And she kind of became a very one-dimensional villain the last episode and a half, where she's just magic counterpart to Wanda, and then is just finished off, very, very quickly. So that's just one little thing that I had a small issue with when it came to Agatha, because I loved her character.
She just wanted
basically
power.
The whole time.
Basically, at the end there. Stefan, before as we call it a night here.
Yeah, just to kind of end it on a positive note of the show, I absolutely want to give a standing ovation to Elizabeth Olsen. Sure, she was the lead of the show, but for someone who wasn't, she's not on the A-list level of some of the actors that we see in these movies. I truly think a star was born from this show. If you don't have a connection to all the sitcoms, you can appreciate that she hit every style. She hit every era of comedy. Then she hit the serious moments when she needed to. When we got to her childhood grief, like, to borrow a term that Rachel Wood used for the robots in Westworld, she said she called it the acting Olympics. And that's what this season was for Elizabeth Olsen, is she had to hit so many genres. She had to hit comedy. She had to hit drama. She had to hit action. And my God, she nailed all of it. Like, I believe the ratings were really good on this. Disney Plus refuses to release their official numbers, but by all the counts of those in the know, that the show did really well, had massive audiences. So I just hope her star was born from this, because I think she absolutely deserves it. And I think all of us can safely say we're really excited, not just what the MCU does next, but what this character does next. For a character that's been in the background of a lot of these MCU movies, and now a vacuum of us losing Iron Man and Captain America, I'm happy to welcome the Scarlet Witch into the forefront of whatever the next phase of Marvel is. Like I said, I said it was short of great, but I loved it all the same. So I think all of us are very excited for what's coming next.
Right on. It's almost as if she had it in her blood to be able to handle the sitcom acting. Almost as if. So you just spent years just learning by osmosis too. It's uncanny. All right, boys and girls, we thank you very much for listening. Hope you enjoyed the WandaVision talk. Hope you enjoyed our UFC 259 breakdown. We're going to be back next week. We're going to preview some sort of card, because I can say that knowing there's something there. Don't know what. We'll let you guys know. We'll see if Leon Edwards gets back on track here, or we see we got ourselves a new contender at 170 pounds, because that's what we got here, a new contender or a contender that's been woken up. Until then, I was Dr. Law. That was Kid Presentable. That was Lavender Gooms, and that was DJ Mark. Wear your mask, get the vaccine, stay safe. Peace out, y'all.
See you.
Don't fight flight attendants.
Unless they deserve it.